22 minutes is nothing. It passes unnoticed in ordinary life. A short walk, a quiet meal, a pause between one task and the next. But at 18,000 feet, inside a single-seat fighter, surrounded by enemy aircraft, 22 minutes becomes something else entirely. Second Lieutenant James Howard watches his radio fail. There is no warning, no static, no gradual fading. One moment it exists, the next it doesn't. The headset fills with silence, so complete it feels unnatural. He presses the transmit switch. Nothing. He checks the panel. Circuit breakers remain seated. The equipment simply stopped working. His wingmen are gone. The flak that had filled the sky moments earlier has vanished. And somewhere beyond the cloud layer, German fighters are already climbing toward him. March 1944. The sky above Brandenburg is frozen and empty, yet filled with danger. High-altitude contrails carve pale lines across the upper atmosphere, marking the path of American bombers pushing deep into the heart of Germany. Below, hidden airfields release their defenders, Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs rising in scattered formations, gathering strength. The air war has become arithmetic. Commanders count bombers departing England. They count those that return. The numbers rarely match. The 8th Air Force describes these missions in strategic terms. Deep penetration, industrial disruption, necessary pressure. But pilots understand the reality in simpler language. It is survival measured in minutes. Heavy bombers cannot defend themselves alone. Their defensive guns are formidable, but insufficient against coordinated fighter attacks. Escort fighters are essential, yet even escorts have limits. The older P-47 Thunderbolts are powerful machines, but their fuel supply restricts how far they can travel. Eventually, fuel gauges dictate withdrawal. And when the escorts turn back, the bombers continue alone. For the men flying those missions, that moment is the most dangerous of all. March 11th begins before sunrise. The airfield is dark and cold. Frost clings to metal surfaces. Ground crews move through shadows, preparing aircraft in silence. Inside the briefing room, pilots sit shoulder to shoulder, listening as officers describe the mission. Target: aircraft manufacturing facilities near Berlin. Route: direct. Enemy resistance: expected to be heavy. Howard listens without emotion. This is not his first mission, but experience has not made the process easier. He drinks coffee that tastes faintly metallic and studies the map in front of him. Soon, he walks alone toward his aircraft. The P-51 Mustang waits at the edge of the runway, its shape barely visible in the dim light. He climbs into the cockpit and secures himself in place. His hands move automatically, performing checks learned through repetition. Fuel, oil, controls. Everything responds correctly. He signals readiness. The Merlin engine ignites with a violent roar, shaking the aircraft beneath him. Gauges climb into operational range. The machine becomes alive, powerful, and obedient. Howard belongs to the 356th Fighter Group. His purpose is clear. Stay with the bombers. Stop enemy fighters. Bring the formation home. It sounds simple, but nothing at altitude is simple. The formation lifts into the sky, climbing steadily through layers of cloud. 50 bombers form the core of the mission. Around them, escort fighters maintain position, scanning constantly for threats. The world changes as they ascend. Clouds fall away beneath them. The sky turns from gray to deep blue. Sunlight reflects sharply from polished aluminum surfaces. For a moment, there is peace. Then the flak begins. Black explosions bloom ahead, expanding suddenly in the bomber formation's path. Shrapnel tears through empty air, invisible but deadly. The bombers continue forward without deviation. They must. Howard holds his assigned position near the formation. His eyes never stop moving. He searches constantly, dividing the sky into sectors, examining each one in turn. Enemy fighters can appear at any time. There is no warning, only seconds to react. Minutes after crossing into German territory, his radio dies. Now, he flies alone in silence. He cannot warn others. He cannot receive warnings. He can only see. And then he sees them. Contrails above. Dozens. Enemy fighters climbing from higher altitude, positioning carefully before beginning their attack. They move deliberately, conserving energy, choosing their moment. Howard's wingmen begin turning to intercept. He follows instinctively. But during the maneuver, the formation dissolves. Cloud cover, speed, and distance separate them. When he levels out again, his wingmen are gone. The bombers remain visible 2 miles away. He is alone. James Howard had never planned to be here. Before the war, his future had seemed predictable. He grew up in St. Louis, part of a middle-class family. His father sold insurance. His mother played piano. His teachers believed he would become a doctor. He possessed steady hands and a calm personality suited for medicine. War changed that. Pearl Harbor erased certainty. Howard enlisted in early 1942, motivated not by anger, but by acceptance. The world had changed, and he believed service was necessary. Flight training followed. Primary instruction in open cockpit aircraft. Basic maneuvers. Endless repetition. He was not exceptional, but he was reliable. He trusted procedures. Advanced training introduced faster aircraft. He learned aerial gunnery, formation flying, and combat maneuvers. He experienced the physical stress of high-speed flight, the crushing force of acceleration, the narrow margin between control and disaster. He learned something else, too. In moments of extreme danger, his mind did not panic. It focused. By late 1943, he arrived in England. He was young, inexperienced, and replaceable. Veteran pilots did not expect newcomers to last long. His early missions were uneventful. Then he saw his first bomber destroyed. The image stayed with him. After that, he stopped counting missions. He simply flew when ordered. Now, on March 11, 1944, he faces the moment every escort pilot fears most. Isolation, a failed radio, enemy fighters closing, and bombers depending on protection that no longer exists. Howard watches the contrails above the bombers multiply. There are too many enemy aircraft. He understands the situation clearly. He can leave, or he can stay. He checks his fuel, checks his ammunition, checks the distance to safety. Everything is measurable, everything except the decision. He looks once more at the bombers ahead. They continue forward, steady and vulnerable. He turns toward them. Alone. The P-51 Mustang had been built to solve a problem that statistics had made impossible to ignore. Before its arrival, bomber crews paid the price for distance. Escort fighters protected them across the Channel and partway into occupied Europe. But fuel always forced those escorts to abandon them before the most dangerous phase of the mission. Beyond that invisible boundary, bombers entered German airspace alone. And alone, they suffered. German fighters did not need to destroy every bomber. They only needed to weaken the formation, damage the stragglers, break the cohesion, force losses high enough that the strategy itself would fail. The Mustang changed the equation. With external fuel tanks, it could remain with the bombers all the way to Berlin and back. It was fast enough to intercept attackers, maneuverable enough to survive. Armed with 6 .50 caliber machine guns capable of tearing through aluminum and steel alike. On paper, it made the bombers safer. But paper did not account for isolation. It did not account for radios that failed or formations that scattered. It did not account for one pilot, alone, with enemies climbing toward him from every direction. Howard sees the bombers ahead, small shapes against the sky. Above them, German fighters are already descending. He counts quickly. 30 aircraft, possibly more. The bombers are under attack. Flashes of cannon fire flicker among the formation. Small bursts appear where shells detonate near fragile fuselages. Each explosion carries the possibility of destruction. Howard checks his fuel gauge. Enough for combat, not enough for hesitation. His ammunition counters show full capacity. 1,800 rounds. Everything he needs, except certainty. Military doctrine offers clear instructions. If separated from formation, pilots are expected to return. Avoid unnecessary engagement. Preserve aircraft and pilot for future missions. It is logical. It is reasonable. It is survival. Howard knows he can turn west now. Dive. Accelerate. Within minutes, he would be outside the worst danger. He could return safely. No one would question him. His radio is dead. No one knows where he is. No one would know that he left. He continues flying toward the bombers. He sees the first one fall. A B-17 at the edge of formation tilts forward suddenly. It begins descending, not in flames, but in silence. Structural damage has already decided its fate. Howard does not watch it disappear. He searches for the attacker. He finds it. A Focke-Wulf 190 climbing upward after its strike, preparing to reposition for another attack. Howard pushes the throttle forward. The Mustang accelerates instantly. He pulls back on the stick, climbing to intercept. The distance closes rapidly. The German pilot remains focused on the bombers, unaware of the threat approaching from behind. Howard aligns his gun sight. The moment lasts seconds. He presses the trigger. The Mustang vibrates as its guns fire. Tracers streak forward, converging on the target. The German fighter shudders as rounds strike its fuselage. Pieces break away. Smoke trails behind it as the aircraft rolls and dives away from the formation. Howard does not follow. There are others. Another fighter appears ahead, approaching head-on. Both aircraft fire. He banks sharply, avoiding incoming shells. The German aircraft flashes past him. Howard reverses direction quickly, falling in behind it. He fires again. The fighter breaks away, diving for safety. Howard climbs back toward the bombers. He sees two more German aircraft descending toward a damaged bomber that struggles to maintain position. Howard intercepts them. He fires at long range. He does not need to destroy them. He only needs to disrupt them. They break off their attack. The bomber survives. Howard climbs again, searching. German fighters begin to notice him. They adjust their approach. Instead of ignoring him, they turn toward him. One fighter alone might be ignored, but one fighter that interferes becomes a threat. Howard sees them turning in his direction. 6 aircraft. Then more. They are positioning carefully, using altitude and coordination to gain advantage. They outnumber him. They outmatch him. They should destroy him. Howard understands the situation clearly. He can still escape. His Mustang remains faster than most of the enemy aircraft. He lowers the nose slightly, increasing speed. He flies directly toward them. The next minutes pass without thought. Training replaces fear. Instinct replaces hesitation. A German fighter crosses above him. Howard pulls upward, firing briefly, then rolls away before becoming a target himself. Another aircraft appears below. He dives, fires, forces it to abandon its approach. He moves constantly, never still, never predictable. Above him, the bombers continue flying their assigned course. They cannot evade. They cannot escape. They depend entirely on protection. Howard makes himself impossible to ignore. Every German fighter approaching the bombers encounters him instead. He attacks, disrupts, withdraws, and attacks again. He does not remain long enough to become vulnerable. He becomes movement itself. A German fighter attempts to climb toward a damaged bomber. Howard intercepts it from behind. He fires at close range. The aircraft shudders violently and begins falling. Howard pulls away immediately, already searching for the next threat. Moments later, 2 enemy fighters dive toward him. He turns sharply, pulling against crushing force. His vision darkens briefly at the edges. He eases pressure, regains clarity, and reverses direction. The attackers overshoot. He survives. His fuel decreases steadily. His ammunition counters drop. Time moves forward without mercy. The German fighters continue attacking. Howard continues resisting. Not to win, but to delay. Not to destroy everything, but to protect enough. Above them all, the bombers continue forward. Still alive. Still flying. Because one pilot refused to leave. The fight cannot continue much longer. Howard's fuel gauge rests near empty. His ammunition is almost gone. Every second in the air now exists on borrowed time. But the bombers are still flying. That is enough. He keeps his Mustang between them and the enemy, weaving gently to maintain speed. German fighters remain nearby, circling at a distance, watching for weakness. They no longer attack aggressively. The cost has become uncertain. Another fighter dives toward the formation. Howard turns to intercept. He fires a short burst. The German aircraft breaks away immediately, abandoning its attack. Howard does not chase. He stays where he is needed most. Protecting. Delaying. Buying time. Moments later, another enemy fighter approaches head-on. Both aircraft fire. Howard hears the sharp impact of bullets striking his canopy. Glass fractures. A hole appears behind his head. Freezing air floods the cockpit. He does not react. He continues flying. The German fighter turns away. Howard searches again for the bombers. They are still there. Still alive. One by one, the German fighters begin to disengage. Some descend toward their bases. Others turn east and disappear entirely. The attack loses momentum. The opportunity is gone. One fighter alone has made the difference. Then he sees them. 47 Thunderbolts approaching from the west. Relief escorts. As they pass, one pilot rocks his wings. Howard answers the gesture. The Germans see the reinforcements and withdraw completely. The battle is over. Howard pulls back his throttle carefully. His engine temperature slowly drops. His altimeter reads 16,000 feet. His fuel gauge reads empty. Yet somehow, the engine continues to run. Below him, Germany stretches toward the horizon. Rivers, fields, and towns pass silently beneath his wings. He is still deep inside enemy territory. He turns west. Home is far away. In the debriefing room, Howard struggles to explain what happened. Intelligence officers ask how many fighters he engaged. He cannot say. They ask how many he destroyed. He estimates only a few. The bomber crews tell a different story. They describe one Mustang attacking continuously for more than 20 minutes, driving away wave after wave of German fighters. They agree on one thing. Without him, many of them would not have survived. His commander reviews the reports and submits a recommendation. Months later, President Franklin Roosevelt awards James Howard the Medal of Honor. The citation states that he alone engaged overwhelming enemy forces and protected the bomber formation without regard for his own safety. Howard says very little. When asked why he stayed, he gives a simple answer. They needed help. The war continues, but missions like that begin to change its outcome. With long-range escorts, bomber losses fall. German air defenses weaken. Air superiority slowly shifts. Howard survives the war. He continues serving for decades. He retires as a brigadier general. He rarely speaks about that day. He never calls himself a hero. He simply says he did his job. James Howard died in 1995, but on March 11, 1944, at 18,000 feet above Germany, one pilot made a choice. He stayed. He fought. And for 22 minutes, he held the sky.